A defense secretary just exposed a shocking truth in a congressional hearing. America's weapons sales to critical allies are being sabotaged from within its own government. Billions of dollars in emergency military aid sit blocked by a single signature during active conflict. This isn't bureaucratic gridlock. This is systematic betrayal that sends the wrong message to enemies, abandons allies under fire, and allows Iranian aggression to escalate unchecked. Democracy is collapsing from the inside before external threats even arrive. Main analysis, 7000 characters. Context, the emergency arms sale crisis and internal sabotage. The picture emerging from this hearing reveals just how fragile America's national security apparatus has become. The committee chairman, through his questioning of the defense secretary, exposes a truth far more dangerous than any single policy disagreement. America's most critical weapon sales to frontline allies are being systematically blocked from within Congress itself. Here's how it works. Foreign military sales require sign-off from four corners: the chairman and ranking members of both the Senate and House committees overseeing defense. When any one of those four signatures is withheld, billions of dollars in critical capabilities remain frozen, no matter how urgent the threat. The chairman's revelation is devastating. For the past year, his own ranking member has been blocking sales to the United Arab Emirates and Israel. Not delaying, not negotiating, blocking. This isn't procedural friction. This is the deliberate sabotage of American strategy from the inside. What message does this send? To our adversaries, America is divided against itself and cannot protect its allies. To our allies, you're on your own. We cannot guarantee your security. And in the most dangerous regions of the world, that message is an invitation to aggression. Concept breakdown. What is emergency authority and why does it exist? Emergency authority is a constitutional mechanism that allows...
Gentleman yields. I recognize the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Kerry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Iano, for being here this morning. And I want to thank, obviously, your staff for preparation for this hearing. First off, I'm going to have a couple questions. I'm going to lay them out so you can have the mindset. The first, I'm going to talk a little bit about crypto as it relates to the staking rewards. Secondly, if we have some time, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the AI tools, kind of build upon what the other members have talked about. As you know, when the taxpayer stakes their crypto, the taxpayer produces new tokens through their own computation activity of validating the network's transactions, similar to a farmer who is harvesting crops or a miner who's actually extracting some type of mineral or a manufacturer producing products. Now, in 2023, the Biden IRS issued guidance treating newly created tokens as actual income taxed at the time of creation, unlike any other newly created property. I think you and I have talked about this before, but the White House Working Group of 2025 Digital Assets Report explicitly recommended to the Treasury and the IRS to review previously issued guidance on the timing of the income from staking and mining and consider whether to clarify or whether to modernize or to reverse it. So a few months ago, along with several of my colleagues, I think 18 in total, including 5 of us that actually sit on this committee, inquired about this guidance. What's the IRS current timeline for completing that review, and is the agency prepared to reverse the previous administration's era guidance if it is found to be inconsistent with how other self-created property is taxed?
Yeah, thank you very much, and it's a timely question. We're in deep review on it. I'm happy to come, have my staff come and brief your staff on our progress and talk about next steps forward, if that works for you, sir.
That works. It works great. And let me just, one other thing is, and if we're going to get the teams together here, one other thing is many of the digital asset foundations that steward blockchain protocols are based outside of the United States, and due to the regulatory uncertainty, I firmly believe that the tax policy should. I mean, I think we all want to make sure that we continue to grow, but this tax pay this tax policy we should encourage the onshoring of these digital assets. So it's something that I'd like to work with your team on as we get together. We'd like to do that. The next topic I'll quickly discuss is the IRS implementation of certain AI tools. I know that you talked a little bit about that. There was a lot of back and forth. I just want to ask you the question and let you expound upon it in the minute and 40-some seconds. How are the AI-driven tools currently helping taxpayers during the 2026 filing season? For example, by answering those routine questions, guiding people through common issues, or easing pressure on call centers. And with that, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I think, first of all, the natural place I started with AI probably over 10 years ago was in call centers. Yeah. And we weren't calling it AI then, but it was really how not only to assist the caller, but to assist the operator. So our ability now to put the information in front of our service representatives so they can get to it faster, where they used to have to traverse multiple systems or try to go figure out the answer, we're prompting that in a manner. So that's taking both calls out of the queue and also allowing our representatives to answer more calls in a day with more timely information. That would be a very simple application. The second set of applications you hear us talking about, is an example of taking everything it took in 16 weeks to get an amended return back to the taxpayer and taking it down to single-digit days, because it's one of the great tools that we have here throughout the whole process. And, it will affect the compliance positively over time here also, is the ability to gather information, bring it together, give answers that need to be reviewed by a human, give them categorical opportunities, or tell them where to search for more. So I'm excited for it.
Thank you for that. With that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Mechanism that allows the President or Secretary of Defense to bypass normal congressional review processes to expedite critical weapon sales. Under ordinary circumstances, this power is rarely invoked because it circumvents the separation of powers and limits Congress's oversight role. But the Defense Secretary's statement here is unequivocal. This is clearly an emergency. I don't think there could be a clearer emergency. Why? Because Iran spent years, even decades, telling regional partners, we will never target you, never your civilian infrastructure, never your oil facilities, never your ships. Those same countries are now realizing they have been long-term, pre-calculated targets of Iranian aggression. Attacks are happening now against ships, energy infrastructure, civilian targets. Under these conditions, allowing weapon deliveries to be held hostage to internal political games is a direct threat to Allied survival. But here's the deeper problem. Emergency authority is designed for exceptional circumstances. If congressional obstruction becomes permanent, emergency authority becomes permanent too. And when the exception becomes the rule, the system itself breaks down. Systemic impact, the collapse of separation of powers and accountability. Two crises are unfolding simultaneously here. One, external security crisis. For decades, Iran has lulled regional states with the narrative, we pose no threat to you. Now the mask is off. Iran's regional hegemony depends on allied military weakness. If the UAE, Israel, and others cannot arm themselves adequately, Iran's strategy succeeds by default. This represents the collapse of strategic deterrence. When adversaries see that the United States cannot or will not equip its allies, they are emboldened. Russia in Ukraine, China near Taiwan, Iran across the Middle East. The pattern is the same. Test American resolve, find it wanting, and advance. The chairman describes meeting with leaders from every country in the region and every single one expressing the same realization. They were told one thing by Iran and are now experiencing the opposite. They were promised safety and are now under direct threat. They were assured of goodwill and are now targeted. What happens when trust in American security guarantees evaporates? Allies either capitulate to adversaries or develop their own nuclear capabilities. Both outcomes destabilize the global order America built. Internal governance crisis, but the more insidious threat isn't external, it's internal. The ranking member's obstruction reveals a fundamental breakdown in how the American system is supposed to function. Here's the key phrase from the chairman. So on one side of the mouth saying, we need to do all these things to support our allies, and at the exact same time literally being one of the four corners holding up all of these sails. This is the anatomy of institutional betrayal. Public rhetoric about supporting allies, private action to prevent that support, and when called out, likely deflection or claims of principled opposition. The result? The executive branch is forced to use emergency powers not because of external emergency alone, but because of internal obstruction. And once that precedent is set, the boundaries between branches blur. The chairman predicts, I wouldn't be surprised if there's another emergency notification in the future. This isn't speculation, it's a warning. If one member of Congress can indefinitely block critical sales, emergency authority will become the default, not the exception. And when emergency powers become routine, congressional oversight dies, not through authoritarian overreach, but through congressional self-sabotage. Societal consequence, the real cost of sending mixed signals. Let's ground this in real-world impact. Scenario 1, ally under threat. The UAE faces drone and missile attacks on its oil infrastructure. It requests advanced air defense systems from the United States. The sale is blocked internally. The UAE has three choices: accept vulnerability and hope Iran shows restraint. Unlikely, seek weapons from Russia or China, undermining US influence. Develop indigenous capabilities, including potential nuclear programs. Closing, who guards the guardians when they sabotage themselves? The question this hearing leaves unanswered is the most important one. What happens when the system designed to provide oversight becomes the primary obstacle to national security? The chairman has identified the problem. The defense secretary has explained the necessity of emergency action. But the underlying dysfunction, one member blocking billions in sales while publicly supporting allies, remains unresolved. This is the paradox of democratic governance in crisis. The very mechanisms meant to ensure accountability can be weaponized to prevent action. And when action is prevented, adversaries fill the vacuum. Democracy depends on institutions, but institutions depend on the people within them acting in good faith. When that good faith disappears, the system doesn't break loudly, it just stops working. As the chairman warned, expect more emergency notifications. Because until Congress can overcome its internal sabotage, the executive branch will have no choice but to act unilaterally. And every time it does, the balance of power shifts a little further from the design the founders intended.